Who a 3-0 lead against a 3-0 lead against the European champions, a 3-0 lead against the 15-time European champions. So that must mean that all Arsenal fans are feeling incredibly confident about going to the Bernabeu.
Why wouldn't you? You have to feel confident being 3-0
I was
up.
joking. Every Arsenal fan I speak to is terrified.
No, but the thing is, Kels, naturally you're terrified because we're talking about the winningest team in the competition and the players that are on show. But what I saw them the other day. You know, I watched them close. I watched them. I've watched Vinicius. I've watched Rodrigo. I've watched Mbappe. I've watched the fact that Jude Bellingham's got to do so much work that if Arsenal can keep the pressure on them by making those players have to try and come back, which they won't want to do, then you will probably score again. But you know, it's Real Madrid. It's almost like you don't want to play Liverpool or Real Madrid in the latter stages of the Champions League, especially quarterfinals, because something happens, especially when you go to their ground. So I would never take it for granted, but I'd be very disappointed if we lost even to Real Madrid after the performance we put in the other day at the Emirates. So, yeah, I'm quite confident about it, but obviously I'm not...
Does the Brentford game and the late equaliser from Brentford and the kind of deflation of that, does that have any effect, or do you think the Arsenal players will be able to separate the two competitions?
Without a doubt, because you know what it means to them. Obviously, trying so hard with the Premier League and getting so close, it looks like Liverpool's going to do that now. But still in with a chance of the Champions League, that's where all their energy probably is now. Obviously, Forest not taking advantage of the fact that they could have caught Arsenal. It makes it even more comfortable for them. But at the same time, you know, all the energies in this game. And being 3-0 up is ideal. I was desperate that Real Madrid didn't score one. But if they score an early one over there, like anyone knows, right, you know, it's a whole different game.
They've never come back from 3-0 down before, Real Madrid.
And now they're playing us. And so, the first time they've ever come back...
The first answer was, why wouldn't you be confident? And now you've started talking yourself...
You have to be confident because you're 3-0 up. You have to be, but you're against Real Madrid, so you can't ignore that. I
think that's the bit that gives
Camavinga
confidence.
getting sent off at the end.
That's one of the worst you'll ever see at that level.
Exactly.
At that level, to see somebody
Arsenal may struggle with goals in the Premier League, but Real Madrid have got no defenders left. Rudiger's the only one standing, I think, at the end of that. So it's looking really good for Arsenal in the Champions League. It's whether that kind of has a knock on to the Premier League and vice versa.
Honestly, Kels, I don't think so, because I just try to picture myself in there, in the predicament that they're in now, where they are in the league and everything, and I wouldn't be thinking about anything else other than that game now and getting through that game.
You're going to Real Madrid. Like, you just, as a player, like, you just can't wait for that. I think there would have been some residual disappointment from the weekend, but I think you would quite quickly change your mind, because you're going, do you know what? We had the buzzer through the week. I mean, Declan Rice must just... I'd just love to be in his head for a second, just like that feeling.
You know what would have been good with that though, Rachel? Like you mentioned me about the chances. Is Declan scored 2 out of this world free kicks, but we created other chances where I'd like to have seen us score them in open play. Because you don't want to feel like, if we need somebody to score another 2 worldies just to keep ourselves in it. So you're hoping, Kels, that we can play like we did, create chances and then try and take them this time.
Talking about an early goal changing the whole complexion of games, Villa Park with a 3-1 deficit for Aston Villa against Paris Saint-Germain, who are very different Paris Saint-Germain from the early stages of the Champions League, from the league phase, which they almost didn't even qualify out of. Now found themselves in the knockout stages, look like a different team altogether. 3-1 to Paris Saint-Germain at Villa Park. But if Villa can get an early goal, is there a way back for them?
There's certainly way back. I've actually got a ticket.
You're hoping there is.
I see the fans are going to play a massive part. It'd be ideal. I'd love Villa to score in the first 10-15 minutes, Kels, because then I feel that we might see that PSG, what we saw earlier on against Arsenal. But it's going to take a massive effort from everybody there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things, I think, about the mindset of, do I think Villa can score 2 goals? Absolutely. But it's, can you stop them scoring another? And so I think it'll be a great game. I think at Villa Park, you know, Villa will go into that feeling confident because it's at home, and there's no pressure in that. in the way that a lot of people think they're out of it, and I think as a player as well, sometimes you enjoy that when people think you don't really have a chance. So sometimes that's a nice feeling because you think pressure's off, but we back ourselves.
Yeah.
Can we get a goal? They know they can. They did that away from home. They scored first. You do that, you start asking questions because PSG were a different team at the start, and some of those players that have come in and have changed it for them are young players too. So can you just ask them a few questions?
That's
What have you got away from home? Not in your comfort zone, and you got to try and lean into that.
See, Champions League games feel like something that you can really look forward to, that can add something to the Premier League season. And then you've got teams like Tottenham and Manchester United, where their whole season, it feels like, is resting on what they can do in the Europa League. And they're both, level pegging 1-1 and 2-2 in their respective fixtures. And who knows? Who knows what could happen? It doesn't feel hyperbolic to say what happens next season could rest on what happens in these next two games for them.
100%. You look at both of them where they're in the league, and there's no reason for them to be in those positions. There's no reason at all. And for United in particular, this could be the biggest game they've had in recent times. The backdrop of not getting through this could be very, very, very stark to where they want to be. There's been a lot of talk of, takeover and the direction we're going to go in, but this is not where Manchester United should be. So it's a massive game for them. And, the performances leading up to this have not been great. You're coming off a 4-1 defeat to Newcastle. In Spurs' example as well, it's exactly the same thing. Spurs should not be where they are in the Premier League table. They should never be there. 17 losses should never happen in a league campaign for Spurs. So they're both hoping that this one trophy can change the narrative and they can walk away saying that at least we got this. And both of them can't win it. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets closest or if they actually manage to progress from this tie.
I was speaking to Man United, some Man United fans, and they were talking about if they won the Europa League and finished where they are, would it be considered a good season? And one said, no, it wouldn't be. And that is obviously off of what we know that Man United were capable of, their history. But I would probably know that there's so much work to be done at Man United. You have to say that's a successful season because it's so bad.
I don't think it's a successful season. I think it saves face.
It saves face. I think it's even better.
You can say
it saves
at least
face.
we're still in Europe next year.
Yes, it
finishing
saves
in the
face.
bottom half of the table, your lowest Premier League finish ever, points tally ever, with nothing to look forward to next season, just domestic games, could be very spooky.
So even if they qualify for the Champions League, it's what they do in the Champions League next season.
Exactly.
And then if they don't qualify for the Champions League, is there then pressure already on the new owners because they're already cutting costs at the club, and then there isn't going to be
that
Champions League money coming in because it's certainly not coming in through the league. It has to come in through the Europa League.
Through the Europa League, and you look at Man United, and they've got the players that, especially in those they can raise their game for some reason, and they can win those games. That's why they're at this stage of the competition. Tottenham, I don't know what's happening there in respects of even if they do go on to win it, which I don't think they can. You just feel like there's so much going on there at Spurs. We're seeing all the stuff that's going on with their manager.
And yet Spurs looked decent. I know it was a 1-1 draw, but they certainly created the chances to win that one. Manchester United conceded that late goal, a couple of Onana errors in that. He was dropped for the game at the weekend against Newcastle, or rested. He's had other stuff going on in his personal life as well. And so that I think that giving him a little bit of space, he wasn't in the squad in order, Ruben Amorim said, to be fit for this game in the Europa League on Thursday night. And that's all he wanted to talk about after the defeat by Newcastle. All Amorim said was Thursday. We're looking ahead to the game against Lyon on Thursday.
I just hope it's not put too much pressure on them in a weird sense because, the league is essentially a write-off. But United do have young players. They brought in a young Harry to play in their game as well on the weekend. You just hope that now that because of Onana's comments before the first leg and what happened, now come to the second leg, that it doesn't become a pressure point where they crumble underneath it because the whole season has been that. They've just not managed to rise to the occasion when they need to. So
are you saying he's going to play Onana in that game? He's rested him for that game, would you say?
Well, I mean, why would if you drop him for both?
He's saying it is just for one game.
Yeah.
That's what Amorim has said. But we will see in midweek. We'll see, as Ruben Amorim kept saying after the defeat by Newcastle. We'll see on Thursday. Is what he kept saying. Thank you very much, Rachel. Thank you, Maya. Wright and I will be back.